Welcome back to HFY Sci-Fi Love and War Story. Today, we're diving into an incredibly thrilling story where humanity faces off against a powerful alien empire and emerges victorious through intellect and hidden strength. How could a seemingly weak planet turn the tables? Stay tuned to uncover the secrets behind this extraordinary victory. The sky over Geneva darkened, as if the sun itself had faltered in its journey, unwilling to compete with the looming presence above. A hum filled the air, a deep, resonating frequency that rattled the bones of every living being beneath it. It wasn't just a sound, it was a pressure, a weight bearing down on the very fabric of the Earth's atmosphere. Then, it appeared. A massive ship descended slowly, like a beast of the heavens, impossibly large yet eerily graceful. The Zyrexian warship, its obsidian surface swallowing the light, hovered with a deceptive calmness. It wasn't a ship as humans would define one, it was a fortress, a monolithic entity suspended between heaven and earth. Its dimensions were beyond comprehension. It stretched nearly 3 kilometers from bow to stern, casting an unrelenting shadow across the earth below. The warship's surface gleamed in shades of black and dark chrome, absorbing the sunlight rather than reflecting it, as if daring the sun to touch it. No wings, no engines, just a haunting, otherworldly shape. Its form was not one of mechanical engineering but of something ancient, crafted from materials that defied Earth's physics and technologies. The edges seemed to shimmer with an unsettling fluidity, as if the ship itself were alive, breathing, pulsating with an alien energy. As it descended, a powerful anti-gravity field emanated from its underside, causing the air around it to ripple and tremble. Despite hovering 50 meters above the ground, the very presence of the ship caused the dust and debris on the landing platform to whirl up into the sky, like reluctant witnesses to an impending fate. At the foot of the warship, standing resolute and unwavering, were Admiral Alina Hassan and the 12 representatives from Earth's Unified Defense Council. They stood at the edge of a grand reception platform, facing this terrifying visitor with expressions of unreadable stoicism. Their uniforms were immaculate, perfectly pressed, as if to mirror the strength they needed to project. The stillness of the moment was palpable. Even the birds that normally filled the sky around Geneva had gone silent, seemingly in reverence or fear of the enormous ship. The city, once full of life and vibrant energy, now seemed to hold its breath. Admiral Hassan, the beacon of calm amidst this impending storm, whispered to her colleagues, her voice barely audible above the unsettling hum of the descending warship, "We show strength through dignity, not aggression." Her words were barely finished when the ship's underside shimmered, and without any visible mechanical movement, a ramp began to unfurl, a pathway between the heavens and earth, connecting the two worlds in a way that was both sacred and terrifying. First, came the Zyrexian soldiers. Their armor glinted in the dimming light, crystalline in appearance, yet the shifting colors of their suits seemed to hide an underlying danger. Their weapons, strange and alien, hummed with energy, causing the very air to vibrate and distort around them. The soldiers moved with precise, synchronized steps, their eyes fixed forward, unblinking, unwavering. Then, from the shadows cast by the ship, emerged the figure that would forever mark the turning point of Earth's fate. Grand Admiral Vexra. Her presence was overwhelming. She towered over the human delegation, easily standing at over 9 feet tall, her form encased in shimmering scales that reflected the light in an ever-changing dance of colors. Each movement she made was accompanied by a subtle shift in hue, as if her very skin were alive, an extension of her dominance and command. The colors of her scales rippled like liquid metal, deep blues, brilliant purples, and fiery reds, telling the story of her power and her authority. Her 4 golden eyes, piercing and unblinking, swept over the gathered humans. Their gaze was not one of curiosity but of disdain, as if she were observing a lesser species, something beneath her consideration. Her voice, when it came, was cold, commanding, and indifferent. It echoed through the air, aided by the translation device at her throat, its complexity lost in translation but its meaning undeniable. Vexra, with contempt. Your civilization's existence is noted, but you are not equals. You will relocate, or your species will be extinguished. The words hung in the air like a death sentence, their weight heavier than the shadows cast by the massive ship. There was no room for negotiation, no offer of mercy, just a cold, ruthless ultimatum. Admiral Hassan, without a flicker of fear or hesitation, stepped forward to address the alien leader. The human delegation stood behind her, perfectly still, as their leader took her first steps toward the overwhelming force before them. There was no indication of submission in her movement, but her respect for the situation was clear in her posture. Admiral Hassan, with measured grace. Earth welcomes you, Grand Admiral Vexra. We are honored by your presence. Vexra's head tilted slightly, her golden eyes narrowing in what could only be described as amused disbelief. It was clear to her that the humans before her, while brave, were beneath her in every conceivable way. She had encountered countless civilizations over the centuries, and they all crumbled beneath the weight of Zyrexian might. Vexra, with a slight flicker of amusement in her voice. Honor has nothing to do with my visit, Admiral. The Zyrexian Empire has expanded for 12,000 years without interruption. Your solar system sits at a strategically valuable hyperspace junction. Your presence here is inconvenient. The words, though calm, were dripping with the arrogance of an empire that had conquered countless worlds. The humans, in her eyes, were nothing more than insects in her path, fragile, fleeting, and easily crushed. The underground chamber was a place few had seen, a vast expanse hidden deep beneath the Swiss Alps, where the core of Earth's most guarded secrets had been kept for over 2 centuries. It was a room built to withstand the worst that the universe could throw at it, designed with the quiet elegance of a tomb but pulsing with the raw energy of 1,000 secrets waiting to be unveiled. The room's walls were lined with blackened metal, and above, intricate web-like conduits hummed softly, feeding power to the holographic systems that dominated the center. In the farthest corners, hidden doors led to even more restricted areas, where Earth's deadliest weapons were held in waiting. The lights in the chamber were dim, casting long shadows across the faces of the gathered leaders, each one set in an expression of grim determination, but there was a thread of quiet confidence that threaded through their stances, as though they had long anticipated this moment. The hum of machinery filled the air, the low-frequency vibrations subtly shifting the air pressure. It wasn't the sound of fear but of purpose, a world united in the knowledge that its survival hung on the decisions made in this very room. At the center of the chamber, Director Zhang stood before a large, spherical holographic display. With a touch of his gloved finger, the hologram flickered to life. The image of the Zyrexian warship hovered above them, slowly rotating as it orbited Earth, its sheer size and ominous presence magnified by the display. The ship was a behemoth, its obsidian surface gleaming even in the dim lighting, a silent sentinel in the sky above. Its vastness was almost incomprehensible, a city that floated in space, a fortress designed not for travel but for destruction. As Zhang manipulated the controls, lines of data appeared around the ship, tracking its every movement, measuring its emissions, and analyzing its structure. The scans showed the Zyrexian vessel's outer defenses, the depth of its armor, and its weaponry, but nothing in the readings hinted at the secret that Earth had kept hidden for so long. Director Zhang spoke with the calm of someone who had long lived in the shadow of fear yet never faltered in its presence. Director Zhang, we've kept our advanced defenses hidden. They believe we are defenseless. Their scans show only what we want them to see, our basic military infrastructure. Their sensors detect nothing of our true capabilities. The room fell silent as the leaders processed the weight of his words. Outside, the sun might still be shining, but here, in the belly of Earth's most sacred chamber, the true preparations for humanity's survival were about to be revealed. General Alvarez, commander of Earth's Space Force, stood up, his posture commanding but relaxed, his confidence rooted in years of preparation. He gestured toward the hologram as his voice rang clear in the silence. General Alvarez, our fleet is ready, Director. We've had over 200 years to prepare. Hidden across the solar system, we've constructed an armada more advanced than any civilization has ever known. Their technology will not match ours. The Zyrexians think they can overwhelm us with sheer size, but they will not anticipate what we have waiting for them. His words were not boastful but matter of fact, as though he were discussing an inevitable outcome. In the darkened chamber, a cold certainty settled over the group. Earth had not been caught off guard. The very stars had been their allies, and now, hidden in the far reaches of space, the world's defenses were finally ready to reveal themselves. A portion of the hologram shifted, showing Earth's hidden fleet. Ships, massive and sleek, hovered in the asteroid belt, camouflaged by advanced cloaking technology so sophisticated that the Zyrexian warships' scanners couldn't detect them. These weren't mere spacecraft, they were works of art, elegant, almost organic in design, built for one purpose: defense. Each ship was a fortress, a floating city of technology so advanced that the Zyrexians, in their arrogance, couldn't fathom it. Some ships lay dormant, cloaked in the shadows of Jupiter's moons, their powerful engines resting, waiting for the signal to engage. Others drifted undetected just behind the rings of Saturn, each warship meticulously crafted to blend with the cosmic dust and gas surrounding them. In the deepest reaches of Mars caverns, automated drone factories buzzed to life, ready to deploy at a moment's notice. The fleet's readiness was unparalleled, and the strategic positioning had been designed to give Earth the upper hand should it come to war. General Alvarez, gesturing to the holographic fleet. The Sentinel Fleet. All 200 warships are fully crewed and armed. We've established defense grids across every major moon and planet in the solar system. Our quantum shield generators can be activated within 60 seconds, and we've hidden our most dangerous weapons where no one would think to look. As the image of the fleet dissolved, a new hologram appeared, showing a map of the solar system. The intricate web of defense installations that Earth had established was revealed in full. It was a web of secrecy, a silent armada that existed only in the shadows of the planets. But now, it was ready to come to life. President O'Caffer, her face unwavering but eyes sharp with determination, stepped forward. The weight of the decision rested squarely on her shoulders. This was the moment when Earth would make its stand, not just for survival but for its right to exist among the stars. President O'Caffer. This is it. We've waited long enough. The Zyrexians may think they can wipe us out with a wave of their hand, but they are gravely mistaken. The time has come to move forward with our secret plan. Activate the defense grid. Prepare the fleet. Humanity's future begins now. Her voice was firm, resonating with a quiet authority that carried the force of an unshakable resolve. As she spoke, the lights in the chamber brightened slightly, signaling the commencement of the final phase. The silence that followed was thick, laden with the understanding that there was no turning back. The Earth that once cowered before the unknown now stood poised to face the greatest challenge it had ever known. The Zyrexians would come, but humanity would not fall. 3 days later, the sky over Geneva was no longer as calm as before. The dim, hazy morning light cast down on a scene of quiet tension, but beneath the surface, the atmosphere was so thick it could be cut with a knife. Surrounded by dark, stormy clouds, the platform awaiting Earth's delegation now reflected both fear and resilience. Earth had had 3 days to prepare for this encounter, 3 days to pretend to be ready to accept submission, while humanity's most powerful forces had been quietly preparing in the shadows. 3 days to maintain a facade of weakness, while, beneath the surface, carefully orchestrated strategies were unfolding like a tactical game they could not afford to reveal. Admiral Alina Hassan stood on the Geneva platform once again, facing the colossal Zyrexian warship, which now seemed like a gigantic, merciless deity. But today, the crack of submission had appeared on Admiral Hassan's face. Her steps, slow but sure, carried no hesitation. The Zyrexian ship, dark as an abyss, slowly descended from the sky. The air trembled once more as waves of pressure collided, like broken ripples on water. The ramp of the ship, once again extending, was like a bridge reaching between space and Earth, creating a path leading into the infinite void. Once again, the crystalline armor of the Zyrexian soldiers appeared first, silent, their movements eerie and ghostly. Their armor, unlike any material Earth had ever encountered, reflected the light in a mesmerizing metallic hue, making them appear like creatures from the void. Their weapons hummed with the sound of death. And then, Grand Admiral Vexra, the one whom all of humanity feared, emerged. She stepped down the ramp with a powerful and haughty presence. Each step of hers was confident and commanding, creating an aura around her that seemed to suffocate the space. The shimmering scales on her body reflected the sunlight as though she radiated a dangerous glow. Vexra, with a mocking smile. You will comply. Your world will be ours in 14 days. Vexra's words were not just orders, they were threats, deeply embedded into the space where they stood. Her voice, soft yet powerful, echoed through the air like the coming of a storm ready to sweep everything away. Admiral Hassan looked directly at Vexra, with no fear in her gaze. But in her eyes, a coldness had replaced the initial signs of concern. What she felt now was not submission, but strategy, a patience she had learned throughout her career. She knew that a single mistake, a sign of weakness, would cause everything to collapse. Admiral Hassan, calm yet resolute. We will comply, Grand Admiral. 14 days. No more. Hassan's words were short but clear, like a firm commitment. Though she spoke them, no one in the room could deny that she was holding something back, a preparation, a secret plan hidden behind these words. It was not surrender, it was a strategy to wait for the right opportunity, to hold her ground and regain control when the time was right. Across from her, Vexra stood still, her golden eyes glowing brightly, slightly narrowing as if she had detected something unusual. She tilted her head, and the light reflecting off her scales created a strange play of colors, as though she were analyzing every aspect of her opponent. Yet, even when frustration flickered briefly in her eyes, Vexra maintained the terrifying patience she was known for. Vexra, with disdain. You think you can deceive us, don't you? I've watched countless worlds bow down, and yours will be no different. 14 days is all you have before I strike. Vexra turned and walked away, the sharp sound of her footsteps like metal, steady and filled with challenge. The ramp slowly closed behind her, and as the Zyrexian ship rose once more into the sky, it left behind a heavy silence, a stillness as if the air was holding its breath before the storm. Admiral Hassan stood and watched, just for a moment longer, after the ship's doors closed. A subtle shift in her eyes passed, as though she was considering what would come next. Everything had been arranged. The next move in the game had begun. In the heavy silence of the Geneva platform, she turned her back to the vast expanse, where Earth's future awaited. Everything was exactly where it needed to be. As the mighty and arrogant Zyrexian fleet slowly advanced toward Earth, the air seemed to grow heavier than ever before. Facing the overwhelming force of these alien invaders, Admiral Hassan, with her seasoned experience forged through countless trials, secretly ordered the activation of the final phase of Operation Thunder Strike. This was the moment when everything that had been hidden in the shadows for over 2 centuries would reveal its true power. Earth was ready. The stealth systems of the warships began to activate. These massive ships, once hidden in the far reaches of the solar system, now hovered silently in space, completely cloaked by advanced technology unknown to the Zyrexians. The light from the planets, asteroids, and ice rings surrounding the solar system suddenly grew dim and obscure as these gigantic vessels emerged from the darkness. Humanity's ships, designed to hide from the enemy's eyes, now began to reveal themselves in magnificent moments of awe. From deep within the asteroid belt, where space dust and cosmic debris swirled to create a hazy and mysterious sight, humanity's aircraft carriers slowly emerged, gigantic metallic blocks reflecting the faint light of distant stars. At the forefront of the fleet, the TSS Defender, a symbol of human power, led the charge. At 5 kilometers in length, this vessel was not just a warship but a floating fortress. Its structure was designed to perfectly fit into space, with sharp curves, squared edges, and highly advanced weaponry hidden within its core. Beneath the polished metal shell, weapon compartments and automated defense systems were running at full capacity, ready to face any opponent. The other ships in the fleet, hundreds in number, rose from secret locations on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, and even hid within the gas clouds of Jupiter. These colossal warships were equipped with thick armor, large missile systems, ballistic projectiles, and powerful energy cannons. These war machines were controlled by artificial intelligence with near-perfect precision, able to synchronize their movements seamlessly, creating a nearly impenetrable defensive wall surrounding their planet. What followed was an unbelievable display of strength. Once activated, the warships emitted blinding flashes of light from their cannon ports and massive energy systems. Each ship, each fleet, could operate independently, but when necessary, they would merge as one, forming an unstoppable force. As the Zyrexian fleet entered and discovered the presence of these giant ships, they were completely overwhelmed. Earth did not only possess one warship, but a hidden army quietly waiting to protect their planet. The Zyrexian warships, which had once seemed invincible, now faced a force completely unexpected. Admiral Kenzo Yamamoto stood on the bridge of the TSS Defender, staring at the large screen in the control room, where images of the Zyrexian warships appeared on radar. With a calm voice, free of concern, he gave the command to his fleet. Admiral Yamamoto, human. This is Admiral Kenzo Yamamoto of the Terran Defense Fleet. Your fleet is surrounded. Surrender now, or face total annihilation. Yamamoto's voice echoed through the communication channels, clear and decisive, without a hint of fear. The alien invaders could not have imagined that Earth was not only preparing to endure but had also planned a stunning counterattack. Simultaneously, humanity's warships from all corners of the solar system began broadcasting signals, blocking every possible path of movement for the Zyrexian fleet. It was as if space itself had transformed in an instant. Each ship, each fleet, now assembled into a complete war machine, surrounding the invading alien vessels. The atmosphere in the TSS Defender's control room was heavy, yet an overwhelming sense of confidence and assurance enveloped the soldiers aboard the ship. The TSS Defender, while the first and largest ship in Earth's fleet, was not the only one. Every other warship in the fleet carried the strength of thousands of years of research and development, a testament to humanity's resilience and superior intellect. In the vast, dark, and endless void of space, the Zyrexian fleet now found itself surrounded, with no escape. Earth was no longer a weak planet awaiting invasion. It was a power to be reckoned with, resilient and unyielding, ready to fight to protect what was rightfully theirs. In the cold expanse of space, the vast emptiness between Mars and the asteroid belt seemed almost serene, yet it was a veil for the most terrifying confrontation in human history. Above the Earth, the Zyrexian fleet, once brimming with arrogance and self-assuredness, moved steadily toward their goal: the total domination of humanity. The black, imposing warships glided in perfect formation, their sleek, obsidian hulls cutting through the void like predators closing in on their prey. But what they didn't know, what they could never have imagined, was that Earth had already prepared its defenses in absolute secrecy for centuries. Every sensor aboard their ships was honed to detect primitive technology, to track the hum of basic military power. But the technology of humanity, hidden beneath layers of deception and cosmic camouflage, was something beyond their comprehension. As the Zyrexians neared the solar system's edge, the first shockwave hit, their sensors began to glitch, small anomalies flashing in their displays. They dismissed it at first as cosmic interference, something inherent to the vastness of space. But then, without warning, it became clear something massive was wrong. At that moment, the very fabric of the void around them began to shift. One by one, the ships of Earth's hidden fleet began to uncloak. They emerged from their cloaked states like phantoms born from the dark depths of space. At first, it was a flicker, just a glint of light reflecting off the polished hulls of ships that had long been veiled in the shadows of Jupiter's moons and the hidden crevices of Saturn's rings. Then, the full force of humanity's armada revealed itself. Giant warships, each several kilometers long, took form in the darkness. Their hulls shimmered with a cold, alien beauty. The ships were not just formidable, they were advanced in ways the Zyrexians could never have imagined. Each one glided silently into position, forming an impenetrable barrier across the vast expanse of space. Some emerged from the rocky expanse of the asteroid belt, their edges sharp and angular, built to tear through the very fabric of space itself. Others, massive in size and stealthy in design, seemed to materialize from the very void between the planets. These were the Sentinel Fleet, Earth's secret armada, crafted over 200 years in silence. Ships that had been hidden beneath the very elements of the solar system, in places where no enemy would ever think to look. The ship's shields flickered to life, glowing with an eerie blue light as energy surged through their core systems. In unison, they activated their planetary defense grid. A pulse of light shot out from Earth, and the ground itself seemed to hum with power. This was no ordinary defense system, this was Earth's final defense. Automated drones, invisible to the Zyrexian scanners, began to deploy from hidden locations on Earth's moons, from the surface of Mars, and even from beneath the clouds of Venus. These drones were the sentinels of Earth's last line of defense, small, agile, and deadly. They swarmed out like a storm, their weapons primed and their mission clear: protect Earth at all costs. For the Zyrexians, what had been an overwhelming sense of superiority quickly turned to confusion and panic. The vast fleet they had once thought would sweep through Earth's defenses now found itself ensnared in a trap of human ingenuity. As they tried to recalibrate their sensors, the sheer scale of Earth's hidden fleet became undeniable. Suddenly, the reality of the situation settled in. The Zyrexians, who had once laughed at the idea of humanity's resistance, now faced a force capable of matching their might. The weapons systems aboard the Earth ships powered up with a hum that reverberated through the cold silence of space. Energy beams, capable of cutting through even the strongest armor, locked onto their targets. The planetary defense grid continued to charge, and massive ion cannons, concealed on Mars' surface, aligned with the approaching fleet, waiting for the signal to fire. The Zyrexian warships halted. There, in the heart of space, with Earth hanging in the balance, they paused. The arrogance that had defined their every movement now turned to hesitation. The cold reality of their situation began to sink in. They had underestimated humanity. At the forefront of the Zyrexian fleet stood Commander Threx, his four golden eyes flickering with a mix of disbelief and fury. His hands gripped the command chair with a strength born of frustration. He watched in stunned silence as his fleet was surrounded, trapped by Earth's sudden revelation of strength. Commander Threx, Zyrexian. Impossible. Where did these ships come from? The words left his mouth in a hoarse whisper, disbelief etched on his face. His eyes darted from one monitor to the next, trying to make sense of the impossible sight before him. The sheer scale of the human fleet was beyond comprehension. There were far more ships than they could have imagined, each one bristling with weaponry and advanced technology that the Zyrexians had never encountered. On the bridge of the TSS Defender, Admiral Kenzo Yamamoto stood tall, calm in the face of the storm. His gaze remained fixed on the screen as he watched the surrounding battlefield unfold. Every moment of preparation, every choice made in the dark, had led to this. The fate of Earth, of humanity, rested now in the hands of those who stood with him. His fingers brushed the holographic control panels, activating the fleet-wide communication system. Admiral Yamamoto, human. You were given a choice. This is the reality now. Surrender, or face total annihilation. His voice was cold and firm, as if this had been decided long ago. There was no fear in his words, no hesitation in his command. The message was clear: humanity had fought for its survival, and now, it was ready to defend its home. As the Zyrexian fleet began to assess its next move, the tension in the vacuum of space became unbearable. The fleet was surrounded, the power of Earth's defenses overwhelming them at every turn. The vastness of the universe, which had once seemed so empty and inviting to the Zyrexians, now felt like a prison. The battle for Earth had begun, but the first blow would not come from the human ships. It would come from the realization that the Zyrexians were not facing a primitive species, they were facing a civilization that had learned to fight not just for survival, but for the right to exist among the stars. The chamber of the Galactic Council was a sight unlike anything the human race had ever seen, a vast, shimmering expanse where the very fabric of space seemed to bend in ways that defied logic. The walls, made of translucent crystalline materials, pulsed with an ethereal glow, reflecting the light of distant stars that illuminated the chamber from beyond. It was a space built for beings far older and wiser than the young species from Earth, yet it now held humanity at its center. Representatives from countless alien civilizations filled the massive hall, their varied forms seated on elegant platforms arranged in a perfect circle around a grand central dais. Some appeared humanoid, others entirely alien creatures of light, energy, or form beyond the comprehension of Earth's finest minds. All had gathered in this sacred space, this meeting point of the universe's power brokers, where decisions of cosmic importance were made. In the center of the room, Earth's delegation stood before the Council President Okafir, Admiral Hassan, and key members of the unified Earth government. The tension in the air was palpable, but there was also an undeniable quiet confidence in the human representatives. They were no longer the timid, young species waiting for permission to exist. They had proven their strength, and now it was time to claim their rightful place among the stars. As President Okafir stepped forward, the chamber fell silent. Her presence was calm but commanding, and her voice carried the weight of the entire human race. President Okafir. We do not seek conflict. But make no mistake, we will defend our sovereignty with everything we have. Her words echoed throughout the chamber, resonating with a power that sent a ripple through the assembled council members. The message was clear: humanity was not here to beg for permission. Earth had fought for its place in the universe, and now it demanded recognition. Behind her, Admiral Hassan stood poised, her face a picture of resolve. She, too, knew the gravity of the moment. They had prepared for this day for decades, perhaps even centuries. But the Zyrexian Empire, which had thought itself unchallenged and untouchable, was about to learn just how wrong it had been. The members of the Galactic Council, having heard Okafir's words, were momentarily silent, taking in the weight of the statement. The Zyrexian delegation, sitting at the far side of the chamber, appeared restless. Grand Admiral Vexra, who had once looked down on Earth with disdain, now fidgeted in her seat, her four golden eyes flickering nervously. Her once imposing presence seemed diminished, her arrogance swallowed by the realization that her empire had been outmaneuvered by a species she had dismissed as primitive. As the council members began to murmur among themselves, President Okafir calmly explained the events that had transpired. She spoke of the past century, during which humanity had been monitoring galactic communications, listening, learning, and preparing for the day when the stars would no longer be silent. She explained how the Zyrexian Empire's flagrant violations of first contact laws had forced humanity into action, and how their arrogance had made them blind to the strength growing on Earth. President O'Caffer, continuing. For over a century, Earth has listened to the voices of the galaxy. We have learned of your laws, your cultures, and your histories. And we have seen the Zyrexian Empire's disregard for the laws of first contact. We have not acted out of malice, but in defense of our sovereignty. Her voice was steady, unwavering, and it carried with it an undeniable truth. The council listened intently, the gravity of the situation settling into their collective consciousness. The Zyrexians, with their centuries of expansion and conquest, had been so sure of their dominance, but here stood a new power, one that had stood its ground and proven its worth. Vexra shifted uneasily in her seat, her once proud scales now a dull gray. She had believed that humanity would submit, that they would fall in line like so many species before them. But here, in this chamber, she realized that Earth had done what no other species had ever done. They had defeated the invincible. Vexra, voice trembling. This cannot be. Your world is nothing compared to the vastness of our empire. We have ruled for 12,000 years. How could you, a mere infant civilization, defeat us? Her words were laced with disbelief, but the other council members were no longer listening to her. The Zyrexian Empire's history of conquest had been built on brute force, on overwhelming intimidation. But it had overlooked something crucial: human resilience. In the midst of the tension, a quiet voice rose from a member of the Galactic Council. It was the representative from the Alteri Dominion, a species known for their wisdom and balanced approach to galactic affairs. Alteri representative. The evidence is irrefutable. Earth has not only defended itself but has demonstrated that it is a force to be reckoned with. The Zyrexians have underestimated humanity's potential, and in doing so, have violated the very laws that govern first contact. The Alteri representative's words were like a beacon, shining light on the truth of Earth's position. Slowly, more voices began to join in, calling for Earth's rightful recognition as a sovereign power. The council members, once unsure, now seemed to realize that Earth's victory was not a fluke. It was the result of careful planning, determination, and unyielding strength. One by one, the members of the Galactic Council began to nod in agreement. The Zyrexian Empire, once thought to be invincible, had been outclassed. Earth, the so-called primitive species, had earned its place among the stars. As the decision was made, the Council's final proclamation echoed through the chamber, a voice that would reverberate across the galaxy for generations to come. Galactic Council voice. We, the members of the Galactic Council, hereby recognize the sovereignty of Earth. Humanity is now a respected civilization, with all rights and protections under galactic law. May this mark the beginning of a new era in the galaxy. A wave of relief and triumph washed over Earth's delegation. Their long journey, their sacrifices, and their triumphs had led to this moment. Earth was no longer a backwater world waiting to be crushed. It was a player on the galactic stage, respected and recognized. Admiral Hassan, softly, with a hint of pride. They thought we were weak. Now, they see who we truly are. As the Council's decree was made official, Earth's victory became undeniable. Humanity had proven that it was not just a species to be dominated, it was a force that could stand toe-to-toe with the greatest empires in the galaxy. And in that moment, the stars were no longer just a distant dream, they were now a field of endless possibilities for Earth's future. So, through today's story, we have seen that resilience and careful preparation can change the fate of an entire planet. Humans not only survived, but also asserted their position among the cosmic empires. They won thanks to their intelligence, strength, and solidarity. A lesson that we can all learn. If you find this video interesting and feel the strength from today's story, please like and subscribe to the channel to follow other interesting videos. And don't forget to leave your opinion in the comment section so we can interact and develop the community together. Thank you for watching. See you in the next videos on HFY Sci-Fi Love and War Story.